Good evening and welcome to the DPMF live show. It is the 28th of December 2025, Sunday night with episode 101. This is our last show for the year. We are your hosts, Daniel, the mastermind behind DPMF, a leading fintech company based out of London. Wesley, the literary push behind the future Ava Chronicles, Crypto Palace, our resident paramedic. Rayleen with the awesome socials. Mike from Latest Crypto XRP and myself, Live Free. Today, we're going to have a fun show, a fun review of the year for DPMF.
Yeah,
Dan, take it away, Dan.
Merry Christmas to one and all as well. Is Dan here?
I see him. Yeah, I see him on the...
I'm here. Can you hear me okay? I've just put a new headset in.
Yes, you're in well.
Excellent. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, everyone.
Merry Christmas, Dan. I knew a hangover couldn't keep you down.
Well, no, I'm not hungover.
Okay.
That's Palace and Mike, I think. Yeah.
Yes.
They said they're a little bit unwell, but it's probably just a couple of too much drinky poos. In fact, while on topic, you'll like this, Wes. I've now got a beer pump where I live. You know, like where you can pour draft. I've got one of them set up.
In your own house?
Yes. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Great. When are we coming over?
You nearly was over last weekend. If you hadn't disappeared, I would have drove you to mine.
Well, I hope you can get wholesome pills. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. So what we're going to do this evening, we're going to do a broad overlay of what's happened over the past year, because there's actually quite a lot that's gone on. There's probably been some developments which people aren't aware of, and some successions in places. So I'm going to try and cover it in chronological order. Not take an overly large amount of time, but it's also not scripted. I haven't got like a diary of events in front of me or something like that, so I'm kind of going off memory, and I'll try and piece it together as we go, remembering back from a year ago. So that's what we'll do this evening. Did you want me to quickly fly through the markets, see where the markets sit this week?
Yeah, might as well.
Yeah?
Might as well
Okay.
do the regular show. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Bitcoin at number one is now $87,452. It's been flat on the week. Ranked at number two is Ethereum, sitting at $2,932, which hasn't broken the $3,000 mark again, going up. That's relatively flat this week. Tether ranked at number three. Binance BNB ranked at number four at $859, which is up 0.42% on the 7-day. Our XRP is now ranked at number five. Sitting at $1.85, down 3.18% on the 7-day. USDC is ranked at number six. Solana is ranked at number seven at $123.23, down 1.94% on the 7-day. Tron is ranked at number eight, sitting at 28 cents, which is relatively flat this week. Dogecoin is at number nine, it's down 5% on the 7-day. Dogecoin sitting at 12 cents, and then ADA Cardano is at 36 cents, and they're relatively flat as well. And Cardano have recently had the Midnight Chain launch. I don't know, you might be following it this week.
I've heard it. Dan, have you seen the flash drop on Bitcoin to 25 grand on Binance? Did anyone catch that?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, I did see that. Yeah.
Bloody hell. What are the implications of that? Because I'm thinking they've just liquidated a load of money there.
Well, for it to happen, someone has sold it at that level. And then demand must have just kicked in. But yeah, I did catch that. It went really, really low. So that could be a signal of things to come in the future. I actually think if you look at Bitcoin from 2009 to today, so over the sort of 16 years, it's actually a huge 5-wave Elliott wave from inception to now. A massive 5-wave Elliott wave, which is a long-term bullish projection. Or bullish analytics. And if it is that would mean there could be years of a bear market coming for Bitcoin with a massive ABC coming. So it could be an indicator of things to come.
Hey, what about the silver market? I mean, it completely pumped to like.
Yeah. Did you get my trade analytics for silver?
Oh,
I
that
said it was
was
good.
about
Yeah,
2 weeks ago. Yeah.
yeah. That I think it was around that point, wasn't it? $73 or something. I said to.
I think you said there was a line up to about 80. I think that's what it
Yeah,
was. But there was a line up
that's
to
it.
80, and then, but you said, nah, I would probably sell earlier just because you just don't know if it's going to happen. And, you know, and,
You don't
you know,
get the percent gains when it was at that level. It's not worth holding on to get that extra few dollars. You might as well just cash out.
or you risk losing as it comes down.
Yeah.
Cause I was looking at like the 30-year, silver graphs. And yeah, I mean, you have these massive spikes, and like the next day it goes completely spikes down again. So it's like, yeah, no, you're right. You know, it's just get the gains now and just get out of it, because it's, and it's funny, people still think it's going to go up to 100, 200, 300. And it's like, man, I don't think so.
Well, do you know, it might do. It's the 1.6 fib. So it could have room to grow, but the percent gains disappear. All right. And that's where the problem is. That's why you have Fibonacci.
Well, I mean, the percent gains don't disappear if you bought early. I mean, it's only if you're buying now.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. That's what I mean. Yeah. So there's no demand at that level because the percent gains fade away. It needs to drop to another support level. But I did see a load of influencers. There was a few who were like, I've cashed out all my crypto and I've gone all in on silver. And I read it and I was like, damn, that is not a good move right now. It's actually the other way around.
That's the sign of the top.
That's definitely scary as hell.
There's a few influential people who've been saying that, who've been tipping their hat towards silver. And I was like, it's actually the other way around. Fuck. And this would be why 80% of people fail at trading. So, I actually got a friend. Oh, go on, Wes.
Sorry, mate. Go on, carry on, mate.
I was going to say, I've got a friend who's asking about it in London recently. He said, I'm thinking about diving into silver. And I was like, you're fucking crazy. Oh, sorry, I shouldn't swear on it. I was like, you're crazy. Right. Don't park your money there. Go in here. And I gave him a few tips and that. I said, go here and here. Don't go into silver now. That's done. I think that's going to be done for a short while. There might be a few dollars here and there on the climb, but, analytically, it's now at a sell point, and you'll see it now. I've had this conversation in a few weeks. We'll be talking about silver dropping. What really sucks about the silver is you hold on to physical silver for a long time because nobody wants the paper silver, shall we say? And then when you try to sell it, the company,
no one wants the physical.
I melted down some silver about 4 months ago, I think it was. But when it was created, it was like low $20. So, some people, they're not interested in buying it because it's just too a bit expensive.
Anyways, because I had some physical and I sold it. I'm pretty much out. I have just a few little here and there, not anything major, just for emergency, shall we say, But anyways, when I try to sell it, because I've been selling it for I would say maybe about 6 weeks now, and I've already finished my selling. But when I first started to sell it, the buyers would buy at, let's say, $2 under spot. And almost like till the end, when the silver has really spiked, they started to buy and only buy $6 and $7 or $8 under spot. So really holding on to it didn't do much of anything because they still jacked you when they bought it from you. They still bought it, they increased the amount of difference in the spot buying, the higher it went.
Yeah. Like the slippage. Are you on about the slippage there?
Yeah, well, yeah, I would say if you want to talk crypto terms, it would be a slippage. But, like I said, when I first started selling, they would buy $2 under spot. But now, when it was at 65, 68, 70, 72, they would increase the amount of difference between, from under the spot. So, you end up selling at $6, $8 under spot and nobody else would buy at that top price. So either way, you can try to hold on, but if you don't have a buyer, then it doesn't matter.
I'm surprised there's not more interest on cobalt, actually. I think cobalt might be a bit of a...
Cobalt, Dan. You know about cobalt?
Yeah.
589, baby.
Cobalt's going to be more than silver. I think I need to check the price on this. I haven't checked cobalt for a while. Let me just pull it up. But if
But
there
there's
was
a reason for that as well, Dan, isn't there? Because cobalt is essential in making all of these new world technologies that we're trying to make.
hugely, it's in your iPhone, it's in all military tech. Anything that involves a sort of enhanced technology as hardware does involve cobalt heavily.
So Dan, just quickly, what are the gains that have happened in silver, Live Free as well? Like, what kind of percentage gains have happened in, say, the last week, 24 hours? Have there been big moves like crypto?
No, it's not as big. No, you'd be looking at what was silver not too long ago. I think it was like $26 last or the start of this year. Is that right?
I would say probably in the last 2 or 3 weeks, silver's gone up, like maybe 50, 70%.
Yeah.
Wow.
But yeah, I mean, but the point is here is, if you're trying to get, like Dan said, if you're trying to get into it now, it's completely risky. You should have gotten it when it was at $20, $22, $25, about a year and a half ago.
I'm all right. I'm going to get into cobalt.
Well, I've got cobalt here. Cobalt shot up as well, but no one's talking about it. So from October of this year, I think I've got it at 45,386. I think. Hang on, let me check this.
I have it at.
Is it $45?
I have USD per ton. How is this?
But cobalt shot up as well. So
we're using metric now, Live Free.
Okay. Yeah. No, I'm trying to think. It's at 52,790 per ton.
Yeah. So what is it?
Yeah, that's what it is. So
per gram, it's £52.70, isn't it?
But you know what? The funny thing is that I'm looking at the 5-year chart for cobalt. In 2022, it shot up to about 82,000 per ton, and then it slowly went down to 2025, the beginning of the year of the 2025, and now it's beginning its increase, and so I'm wondering if it also has to do with the cycles, and not necessarily manufacturing.
Maybe. And well, if they turn off, if they shut mines down, if there's production slowed down, it increases price.
Actually,
Cobalt mines. Sorry, go on.
I just increased it to a 10-year chart, and it's exactly following the cycles. 2018, it shot up to about 91,000. 2022, it shot up to about 81,000, and 2025, it's shooting up to about 52. So it is exactly following cycles.
Yeah.
I just wanted to add as well.
Not
cobalt mines are no. Oh dear.
No. Have you already put on? Yeah. Already taken off, mate. You have to wait for the correction if you want to add more out of it.
I was going to say as well, cobalt mines are notoriously dangerous and extremely complicated to run as well.
Yeah, they're also in combat zones.
I was going to say exactly. It all depends where the mine is. If it's like in Africa and stuff like that, you have one tribe fighting the other for control. Then yeah,
100%. So gold, diamond, cobalt mines. They're all in conflict areas: Africa, Congo. Guess the recent one, Ukraine. Cobalt mines were found in Ukraine in 2018.
Rare minerals, hence Trump's peace deals.
Well, yeah, because he wants a slice of the pie.
He wants a piece.
And who would? Yeah. Cobalt is probably one of the most useful. Cobalt's like XRP in terms of precious metals. So gold would be Bitcoin. Silver, you could argue, be the equivalent of Ethereum. Because of the use case silver has, but cobalt has a very intelligent use case where, unique high technology relies on cobalt. I know the Russian Su-35, I think it is, fighter jet, they had to slow down production in Russia of them fighter jets because they had a lack of cobalt. And that was before the Ukraine-Russia conflict.
Okay. Well, there we go. There's another reason for it now.
Yeah, you don't hear that on the news.
No.
But it's in all iPhones, Androids, any smartphone is required for cobalt. That would be why you see phone stores ask for you to, would you like to recycle your phone? And the main commodity they need is cobalt.
Well, this is what I was wondering. Like, I'm sure it's used also in electric vehicle manufacturing, and which is
Yeah, you're
obviously
correct.
massive.
Yes, yeah, that and green energy, there's sort of more advanced green energy stuff, but stuff like Tesla motor vehicles and stuff, yeah, they heavily rely on cobalt. It was one of the reasons why Elon set up the Tesla um, manufacturing factory in Shanghai, in China, was because of the cobalt surrounding it was easier to bring in, as opposed to
Well,
the
Yeah.
but
structure
you
of
know
the
what?
US.
It doesn't necessarily need to be high tech because you have drive shafts and you have steering columns and axles and other stuff
Yeah, that's the simple stuff.
that
Yeah,
uses cobalt
that's the
because of its
simple stuff.
strength and rigidity.
But the circuit boards require cobalt for the intensity. All of them do. So that's why the Su-35 couldn't go into production. I think it's Su-35. I might have the wrong model, but the Russian fighter jet, they needed more cobalt to go with the advanced weaponry. They couldn't complete the production because they were lacking the commodity cobalt. So there you go. So it doesn't look like there's any precious metals on the market at the moment. Has anyone seen gold? I don't know what gold's sitting at. Let's have a look.
I haven't got a clue on AU.
Oh, I used to trade gold a lot about 10 years ago. Like, honestly, a lot. And it was one of the commodities that used to really screw me over. I was always getting it wrong. That and oil. Yeah, gold.
I thought you did well on oil. You used to
Oh,
talk
yeah, I
well
did.
about oil.
Yeah, when WTI, Texas oil, they collapsed and went down to minus $50 a barrel. So they were literally paying people to take oil off them
Wow.
because they had so much.
Yeah.
That's how much supply they had. And that lasted for about 2-3 days. But I had, I put on contract trade, like before the broker turned them off. I put a contract trade on really, really, really low. And I remember saying to a guy called Rob,
Ah.
do you remember Rob? He's in our
Yeah.
DPMF community chat, actually.
Yes, I think.
I said to him, put one on here, and we caught it. We caught the trade through the broker, but the broker eventually turned it off. They let us take profit, and we made a killing off it. But yeah, that was the only time really, because oil is so manipulated. Oil and gold are heavily manipulated. For
Ah.
tons of reasons. So they're very difficult to trade. You have to have big balls to trade it, especially daily. You do. Gas as well. Natural gas is another one that could be a bit of a scary one to trade. But well, you'll see. We got all the old traders I used to trade with.
Yeah.
They're coming across to DPMF in our research area. For
I'm going to be in there, Dan.
Yeah.
I need to be in there just to let people know what not to do. If you do the opposite of me, you'll make money.
So we got at the moment there's 85 traders, and there used to be, well, I think it was about 300, wasn't it, Wes, back in 2018? It was a lot.
At least I would say. Yeah, it was a lot.
So every day we would trade. Every day we would be putting up charts, and because we had so many eyes going on around the world, there was people watching the US dollar index, all the precious metals, the indices, FTSE 100, S&P 500, and because we had all these eyes, it was a lot easier to analyze where things were going. So yeah, that group still exists. There's about 85 in there, and I reached out to them about a week and a half ago and said, look, would you guys be interested in getting involved in trading again as a team? And they were like, yeah, we're interested. So I'm going to better bring them into the research lab at DPMF. We've got a massive trade group, and monitor the global markets a bit better, because I do think there's actually a reason behind it. I do think we've got I don't want to call it a black swan event, but I think we've got we're in a financial crisis actually, and it's a prolonged one, and we're going to start seeing evidence of
slow bleed. Yeah.
And that's the best time to actually make money. When you do
well, we had
trades.
quite a great, we had a brilliant success rate as well comparatively speaking.
Oh yeah, so that back then, just for those that don't know, back then, this was when cryptocurrency was all still fairly new. So it was like 2018, I think it was, Wes, maybe 19. And a lot of us were trading the traditional markets, and I was trying to introduce people into cryptocurrency. So all the main net currencies you see now, like even Cardano ADA was like below a cent, I think it was back then. Holochain was a real big one for people. Tap Global. XRP, but I know Bitcoin was like $3,000 at the time when we was doing this. So there was a lot of opportunity, and I was doing a lot of analytics and convincing people, look, don't be afraid of getting into mainnet currencies and crypto, and some smaller assets. And I will research and find the founders and see, you know, how much weight they carry. So I've done a lot of research for individuals and people pulling in tokens we'd never heard of. That was when SafeMoon started as well.
Don't remind me. Don't remind me.
So for example, I traced them down, and I said, we're not investing in that. And then we moved to the next one, and everything I'd told everyone not to invest in eventually failed, and everything that we was invested in as a group done really well. I think my best one was Holochain, and perhaps Holochain definitely Tap. And I was what was it? I made a guy £700,000 from Tap. It's about 700.
That's got to be Tap.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. And it was called Manana. Was it called Manana? Oh, was it Polygon? No, it was
Polygon.
Matic. It was Matic, and they transferred
Matic. Yes.
And then
I remember.
That was a big run, and we was in the Dogecoin before the first pump. So we was early in Dogecoin as well, when it was at fractions of a penny. We made a killing. And I remember in the trade group, I was telling everyone, right, I'm selling this now, I'm selling this. And people were like, no, you're crazy, Dan, you're crazy. I was like, trust me. You know, this is a top for me. So you trade how you want to trade, but I'm just letting you know that I'm out of this one.
HLT was an amazing one. That was the first time I ever saw anything move in real terms, in real time. And I saw it move in front of my eyes with money that I had in skin in the game. And it was just, I was getting overwhelmed. I felt all of those feelings where, bloody hell, I've never felt before. It was quite overwhelming.
It was something like 60, 70 grand I made from Holochain. And I hadn't put that much. Yeah, I hadn't put that much into it. And that was just because we was early. And that's what was really good about having a team of traders. And then as time went on, after 2019, going into 2020, I said to the trade group, look, I'm going to start a company, so I'm not going to be trading anymore. But now I actually miss it a bit. I do like trade. I like to make money. But I know how corrupt the traditional markets can be. I've seen it. I've paid the price. I've lost money.
You're one step ahead though, because you know what corruptness they have.
Yeah, it's a tough market. It's really unfair for new people who come in. Yeah, they'll buy a stock like, whatever it is, whatever equity, and it just fucking plummets, and they panic like they're going to lose their money and sell to get out, and then it takes off. I've been there with that emotion when I was a new trader. So whenever I meet new traders, I like to try and be quite comforted and say, just roll with it. Don't worry. The analytics say it's going here. Be disciplined. And that's what we used to do years ago. And that's actually how I met Wes, who's here on the panel. It was actually in that trade group. He was one of them.
Exactly. I am your best example of a great trader. This is how we met.
But since we stopped trading, you've made some terrible decisions.
I have. That is true.
I know about Trump coin and Milana coin. But no, we had a lot of success. There was hundreds of us, and we all done really well. And it just come down to teamwork. So I'm pulling them in. But I don't know exactly when it's, days or weeks, but it's sometime soon. We're going to pull them in, and then behind the scenes with DPMF, we'll have them trading. We'll be trading some profits and stuff in the traditional markets, and sort of pulling it in, broadcast a few trades that we're doing as well. We'll do that.
Great news. So let's get into things. Let's kick it off. What do we want to talk about tonight? Because we did the RWAs.
Yes, so we've had. I've put the RWA one up there because it's more of a recent one. But going back to 2025, so there's some developments that we've been doing over the past probably 2 years, which aren't traditional developments. There's some we've done, which some could argue should be protocols initiated on the XRP ledger, which we've kind of coded ourselves in our own way and got around it. But from 2025, we only had Fusion online for, for about 3 months. I think it was August to September of 2025. 2004, Fusion come online, which was a merge between Zungible, who went into a bit of trouble with development, and Radical X, which was a platform we had previously, which was heavily R&D. So that merge, just a few months before we went into 2025, that took it was about 6 months, roughly, give or take. And that was merging, we'd done a trio of assets, and we merged platforms where there was a synchronicity between two platforms. Now, that's actually very hard to do. If you're to merge two platforms, it's actually nigh on impossible, depending on how you do it. So we had to be quite clever about it. And that was 2024 was a very painful time for us, because with Zungible, they had about 18,000 investors. I think at the time we had about 25. And I was getting a lot of interest, people messaging saying, look, could you help Zungible? And in truth, we couldn't directly help them because they were doing a similar thing to us. And speaking to the lead at the time, I said, look, I'll just take it over and merge the platforms and then move forward. There was a lot more complications in that, but that was kind of what it was back then. And we done the only successful merge of assets on the XRPL. So those who don't know, we still have an asset on the ledger. It's called RDX. It was for Radical X, which is now XIO for Fusion XIO, which is in the Jumbotron up top. They're actually paired together now successfully. In fact, RDX actually had a bullish breakout a few days ago, because I do monitor it, because it shouldn't be an asset which should plummet to zero. It just shouldn't happen. And when you have asset merges where a project may say, right, we need to adjust a ticker from this to this, generally they just tank and disappear. And I was like, well, I don't want that to happen, because we had a lot of investors from 2021 who were involved in RDX. So I wanted to make sure that the capability was there, that they could always switch. So, so that's how that happened. So we did merge the assets on the XRPL. We used a flag, which most wouldn't have heard of, called a passive flag. So that means RDX can be directly swapped into XIO without using an XRP currency as a middle currency. And
A quick reminder, Dan, you still haven't refilled that flag.
Oh, yeah, fair one. That's because I put liquidity on the AMM. Noted, thank you. I've actually had some of the old traders ask me about that.
Yeah, I had a bit of a run up a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, it's
had a good run up
because it's pegged. So when we done the merge, where there hasn't been anyone else who's done it successfully. When we done the merge, we pegged the assets, so they are indirectly tied together. And we use a bit of the AMM for that, but mainly it's to do with the passive flag, which has been very supportive. But recently I put a lot of XIO and another asset into the AMM. So we ran out of the switch, because I thought most had done it, but recently I've been contacting people wanting to switch more. So that merge was successful, and it was incredibly complicated. And unless you're a developer of any sort, you wouldn't know how hard that was. And that was a really big hit for DPMF back in 2024, because at the time we only had the one platform online, and that one platform we was reliant for project, parts of Project XD2 and parts of Project XD3. So it did look bad. And I had to be online to say, look, do not worry. We just, this merge, and we saved some investors, if you like. They were able to transfer assets into XIO and then be a part of this merge. If you was to ask me, was it worth it? I would say no. I probably lost about 6 months of R&D in the XLS20 protocol. So, a lesson learned is I won't be doing it again. So if anyone's ever worried, is Dan ever going to merge another application or a platform with another one? I can tell you now, from first hand, it's just not worth it. So I won't be doing that again, 100%. So what we have online is what we have. But yeah, we was very reliant on having a platform related to creating NFTs, because we're doing some quite complicated stuff in the future, and one of them is actually in the Jumbotron above. So yeah, merge went fine. A lot of hard work behind the scenes, and we got it on in August, and then we started slipping into 2025. Now, there was a roadmap that I put out for 2025 with Q1, 2, 3, and 4, and I done that so everyone would have an idea of what we were developing. Now, if I'm completely honest with you, I don't know if we're going to hit them targets. And it's very hard to do a roadmap or any kind of sequence of events or a chronological order, because you do have bumps in the road that you don't know are coming. And with some of the stuff we're doing on the XRP ledger, that's very, very common for us. So it's very when someone who's an investor in something, or someone who's just a community member or a supporter, or they use a platform or they're waiting for a feature, I wanted to give something so they could say, all right, I have an idea what's going on through the year, and then I can track it in my own time, join the community group and then ask about it. So we started off, with the first few features in Q1, and I was reached out by a project on the XRPL who was in a little bit of not a rut, but he had some ideas with 3D technology, 3D files as NFTs and integrating them into 3D ecosystems. And I was like, actually, we are planning to do that, but we're focusing on a bit more of this through the year. And he kind of said, look, it would be great if you could put it on earlier. And at the time, we was waiting for the DNFT capability to come on the XRP ledger. Now, at the start of 2025, that wasn't on. I don't think it was even being talked about then. And I remember talking to some of the team, and I said, actually, it would make a better idea. Bear in mind, we released the roadmap in the end of December, so about a year ago. And 3-4 weeks later, we're already discussing to change the roadmap to go on to 3D NFTs and AR technology. So I had a chat with the team, and I was like, actually, the AVA program does need this, so we can prepare it for when the dynamic NFTs come, because we didn't know when that was going to be. So we started adjusting for there. And that was kind of the start of 2025, where we was testing FBX and GLB files as 3D files to turn into NFTs, which was actually to assist in another project in preparation, another project that we're doing, and another XRPL project which wanted a helping hand. So that was why there was the switch. And then during that switch, so we've got, I'm just going to go on to the company handle and find, I'll pull up some of the 3D NFT stuff that we've got, because that's what led to it. Where are you? It was, because it was around the time we was going to do all currency minting, etc. It kind of made sense to switch it. So that was the direction we went. And at the time, there wasn't any real open source information on exactly how to do that. So 3D NFTs had been sort of used on the XRP ledger, but they hadn't been done to the capability that we have now. And we had to do a lot of testing with texture and colors, and do a lot of configurations to get it working. So that took a little bit of time. And then concurrently to that, we was preparing DPMF labs, which is a whole series of teams in the background involved in like minuscule but different areas of blockchain business with extra team members. We have about just short of 20, or around 20 members at the moment in DPMF labs, and that was kicking off then as well. So that was sort of the start of Q1. And unfortunately, some might remember, or some might not remember, I had to go to Africa for about 3 months. And during that time in Africa, I had to basically be in the dark for about 5 weeks. I was actually working on some stuff relating to drone technology to do with Ukraine. So I had to tell the team, I had to prepare the development team and we just started DPMF labs as well. And talking to Artie, I had to say, look, I'm actually going to disappear for a few months. And within them few months, I'm going to be completely disappearing for 5 weeks. You are not going to hear from me. So have this happen, this happen, this happen. We'll have this in place, follow this, keep things running till I get back. And that was quite a scary thing to do. I know Live Free and Wes, you might remember when I just completely disappeared from any social media for a while, and that was a bit of a hiccup in the road, because it wasn't actually planned I'd go away, but it did slow down development. And then after that, when I got back, a few challenging developments which were put forward had actually come to fruition. So it wasn't all bad. It was just probably a bit scary that the CEO of a company has just disappeared at the time when we're probably going into a bit of a financial crisis. But the developments we had back then were we were doing R&D for all currency minting, which is online now. So anyone can use Fusion to create a collection and offer it out to mint in any currency. That's online now. And we was just about to do the meta config, which involves 3D files being pulled into other 3D ecosystems with metadata. That wasn't live either. We was doing that in Q1 of 2025. They are now live, them two. The meta config, I think, came on around April, so it's about Q2. And the all currency minting actually came on last month. As a point to note. So when I came back from Africa, so that was sort of the Q1, start of Q2 area with DPMF Labs starting and a few developments, along with the 3D files. With an example above, for those who can see the Jumbotron, there's the Megabit. The Megabit campaign, although we launched it only a few months ago by design, the preparation for it actually started around February of 2025, and we prepared it for about 6-7 months before we turned anything on. I think that's about right, isn't it, Wes? Live-free, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, it definitely was prolonged. And again, like you said, it's like you're waiting for the protocols and amendments to pass in order to be able to do some of this stuff. And they did, so.
Yeah, a big one was the dynamic NFT capability. So for those that don't know, dynamic NFTs are very, very, very powerful for game finance. In fact, they are required. Anything that involves gaming and NFTs, you want your NFT to have the DNFT, excuse me, capability. Without it, you're not going to have as much utility. So when I returned from Africa, which was around the back end of Q2 of 2025, I discovered that while I was away, validators had voted for the DNFT capability to come on. So I pulled the development team in quickly, and I was like, get this on Fusion right now, because we need to start testing it for the AVA program. That needs to be happening sharpish. And then I got in touch with the MetaMart in China, who were involved in the game development, and I was like, look guys, we're game on. The protocol we've been waiting for the past 18 months to 2 years has just come online on the ledger while I was in Africa. So we can start turning things on with the game. We can start actually building the rest of it out and then start testing it with DNFT capabilities. So that was then the Q2. We got rushed a bit on that. And so the AVA program gaming, I had a plan to try and turn parts of it on to the back end of this year just gone. But we don't have, if I'm honest with you, the 3D ecosystems we have, we're redesigning and rebuilding because there's a bigger plan with the AVA program. We just need to make sure we have it exactly right for the first part of the app that we release. And there's a lot of moving parts to that. But when that comes out later on, it's gonna put us in a good place if we get it right now. So there has been some redesigning gone on. Some more characters have been built for the AVA program. Some haven't seen before. And we also, with the AVA program app, we have now built in the capability so people can build their own avatar, which they can then create into an NFT on the app, if they so want to. That wasn't part of the plan months ago. So now we've got all that applied on there. It puts us in a good place for when we launch. But I did want to launch the app at the end of this year, probably about 2 months ago when it was redesigning. For those who've seen any of the cinematic footage, there is quite a large ship involved, which everyone would have their own ship, and we redesigned some of the inside relating to training ravers and stuff like that. So that was around Q2. DNFT technology, or having DNFTs, and kickstarting the AVA program was like, right, let's do that on. So we're in a test phase now with the characters on there, characters and redesign of the game for the app, which is very exciting. So that's Q1 and Q2 so far. Did I miss anything, guys? Or
No. Sounds pretty good.
I am going off memory. To add to that as well, so January of last year, around January, February, I visited Manchester Keto, Chris from OpenEgg come met us. Wes was there as well. We had, at the time, we had a designer in the design lab, and she was there. And Palace wasn't there actually, was he? Who else was there, Wes? I can't remember. There's a couple of others.
No, Palace has come. I think you've clocked them all there. I think you've got them all.
So I listed all the galleries in Manchester, and I went for a meeting with them around Manchester and met a load of reps there to discuss about the RWA stuff. So this was a year ago. So visit Manchester, visit a load of galleries, explain what we could do, adding an additional layer of revenue, of finance in the sort of cryptocurrency world on top of their traditional finance sort of ecosystem that they had. And some knew what I was talking about, some didn't like the word crypto or NFTs. They were a little bit put off. Concurrently to that, while I was in Manchester, I had also arranged meetings back in London for galleries to do the same thing. After visiting around 12 to 15 galleries in Manchester, so these are art galleries to discuss about having RWAs, we didn't have any success. But we did learn a lot. What I learned personally was the way we would present this would have to be quite a unique way, because in fact, cryptocurrency was looked at as a lot worse a year ago to what it is now. Now it's a lot more friendly, mainly because of Trump coming in. But a year ago it wasn't. So to convince an art gallery to tokenize their artwork, where we could, trade it on a platform in cryptocurrency, in any cryptocurrency that runs on the XRP ledger, although it was interesting, it wasn't favored because the tech just wasn't there in a sort of regulated manner to the media. But then we had 6 months later, or maybe 4 months later, fortunately, one of the galleries in London did reach back to me, who were very, very interested. And that's the meeting that we had recently, which actually relates to the RWA post. What I'll do is, I'm just going to put that one up on the Jumbotron, because it's got some of us when we were there in the gallery. Put that up now. There you go. Has it gone on? Yes. So in the Jumbotron above, you'll see that in that gallery, a few of the panel were here that went across, and we went to do a demonstration on scanning any object to then turn it into a file. That file would then be put on Fusion, which could then be tokenized into an RWA and then sold for any currency of our choosing. But the demonstration was mainly for the scanning capability. One thing we probably didn't take into account was we didn't take our own personal object to scan. Right, so we were
we should have brought something to scan, but we forgot that crucial part.
So in that room, there's hundreds of thousands of pounds worth of priceless artwork. Right, and we weren't allowed to touch it, which is fine. There was security. There was security in the area, and we had security watching us on camera. And one of the art gallery team actually passed me a mobile phone while we was doing what was shown in the images, and said, "Excuse me, Daniel, what is it exactly you're doing? I can see you've got some devices out. I'm not sure if we're allowed to let you use them in the gallery." I said, "No, it's fine. We're just doing a demonstration." And the shoe in the demonstration is actually Palace, who's usually on the panel. It was his shoe, and he quickly improvised and said, "Look, we can scan any object and put that down." And then Chris, who's in one of our labs in the merch lab, began scanning it. And they were very impressed. There were a few key takeaways with this gallery they were impressed with. When we explained to them that when you create the RWA, because we could do that for them, that once the process is done, they would own the NFT, because they thought we would custody it. And I said, actually, we don't. You would custody it and decide what price you want to sell it at. And even if you want to sell it at all, you would control what data would go on there in terms of metadata, and you would be able to control what you want on display, etc. They were very impressed with that. They didn't understand self-custody was a thing. So that was quite good to get that across. But the main one, the big thing this gallery specifically liked, was to have the capability to apply offers or sell this RWA in any asset on the XRP ledger. That was very interesting to them, as well as viewing it in 3D. So we gave them the example in 3D to look at and explain, look, this file actually qualifies to be viewed in augmented reality as well. And in the future, it also it qualifies with sort of hologram technology and stuff like that because of the file type. They were incredibly impressed by that. So that was really good. But what I found with most businesses I spoke to, because I spoke to a few other galleries in London, ones we haven't done a demonstration, and the ones in Manchester, all the ones they were interested in, it was always the same thing was, so I can sell this in any currency. And it wasn't just like Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP on the XRP ledger. It was USD, Great British Pound, Euro. And I said, yeah, offers can all be applied at the same time. And you can just pick which one you want to accept, and then that's the sale done. And then you can contact the owner on Fusion. And they were like, okay, this is really interesting for us. So that's been the consensus with every business or art gallery we spoke to. It's been the all currency trade capability, which we already have online. So that was why that was a success. But leaning in on that, Chris is doing a lot of testing with the scanner at the moment because light, color, size, it all has certain limitations that he's learning to break. And with that, once we've got all them nailed down, we'll be able to target all kinds of businesses and say, look, is this something that would be of interest to you? Because it does add an additional financial layer on top of your already traditional sales, sort of spectrum. And that's kind of the unique selling point we're going with that. So I'll take a pause on there because I sort of fast forwarded because that was quite recent. Have I missed anything around the Q2? Maybe going into the Q3 area.
No, but I do have a comment on the scanning of the shoe. I mean, I keep on seeing that post, and I'm thinking, I can't believe that this gallery doesn't have anything, absolutely anything, on top of somebody's desk or something that you could have used
Well,
instead
actually,
of a damn shoe.
we there was a coffee cup. So there was a coffee cup with they had like two receptionists like doing security or whatever. There was a coffee cup there that we had, but they didn't want us to bring it into the gallery area because if in them pictures to the sort of half right, there's how much was that artwork hanging off the wall, Wes? It's right next to where we was. It was like £70,000. It's like $100,000.
Yeah.
So they didn't want any liquids or anything like that near it. So I was like, okay, we could do the cup empty, and then Palace, he just cleverly took his shoe off and was like, scan this. And that really helped with the demonstration because we just showed that we can scan. Yeah, because we just improvised. We didn't have a preset file where we could just show off something which we maybe might have scanned before. He just took his shoe off and we began doing it.
We were how good the scanner was as well. It actually just the smell of his.
But the process, so you'll see in one of them images, you could see on the laptop how it comes out. That's impressive to look. When Chris was walking around actually scanning it, the detail of it is very, very accurate. It's about 0.02 mil to accuracy. So you can do the accuracy of people's hair. So we do have the capability to scan actual people to a very, very accurate state and then turn them into a digital file and turn them into an NFT, which is massive. To some, they're probably going, what on earth is going on there, Dan? This sounds absolutely barbaric. Why would anyone want to be an NFT? But it's not that. It's because we can digitize anyone. We also have the capability to apply the rigging and moving parts of anyone, which means we can put a real-time character into a 3D ecosystem as a video game in the future. That's kind of where I'm going with it. I'm not worried about selling as an NFT where someone owns them. But
I do have to admit a little bit on that I would love to have my character walking around in some sort of metaverse as opposed to something else that's been just drawn up or whatever. But that's just my personal opinion.
There's been Chris spoke to me about this as well. So RWAs, and I don't mean just on the XRP ledger, I mean on all chains, have not been done to the accuracy of what we're doing. What I mean by that is we actually scan a 3D file or scan a 3D object, and then turn it into a file that's highly accurate. and then that's kind of a twin. So you have a digital twin that's related to the physical item, and then there's microchips involved that are called NFCs, which give authorization of that being the unique only one. You know, this chip can't be attached to any other one or can't be copied. So that you know, there is more to it than that. But the way we're going with RWAs is very, very detailed, and utilising the ledger to well, exactly what the ledger's for. But we have enough in place to do it now. So now we've got to explore where to start, where we're going to go with it. And so we had the capability for 3D objects as NFTs in the middle of last year. So that was when that came on. Only the past few months have we got the tech in to scan the 3D objects into digital files to then be NFTs or RWAs. That's recent, and it's been quite successful, with more R&D going on. Okay, have you got any questions? I think I'll slide onto a Q4.
No, I don't have any questions.
So, and a point to note on this as well, this is quite key. So all this stuff that we have, because it's been a lot of 3D file stuff. In 2025, that was the main effort, and it wasn't the main effort in planning the year before. But everything that we do is related to cryptocurrency trade. So it's, I'll use this kind of analogy. You could say a crypto project could build a game and their token doesn't even run on it, but it's a representation of their token. All this stuff that you see up there, even with the RWA stuff, we've already got it built in that any XRPL asset can be traded for these. So an institution could allow offers in any asset on the XRP ledger as long as they have the trust line in the wallet that issues the NFTs. It works on Fusion. I think we're the only platform at the moment that have that capability to its optimum level, where with the minute an asset is issued, it runs on Fusion. We're the only one, I think, on the XRP ledger at that state. There are a few multi-currency platforms, but they're tailored to selective assets. We've actually got it open to everyone. In fact, when I was talking to the gallery, one of them, and said, look, you can actually, as a gallery, issue your own asset if you want, as a representation or a currency that you want to accept in your gallery. And we already have all these features that it runs on. And that, it was another thing that was quite impressive. But everything we do does relate to utilizing digital assets, and we don't tie it just to our own native asset. There are some things that we do, make no mistake of that. But for this, especially for XD1 as Fusion, we do have it very open for any assets to be used on these. So these RWAs, and there will be RWAs come in 2026, which will be on Fusion, and Fusion will upgrade into a volume 2. So you're going to see some monumental changes on Fusion where it's very attractive. Especially related to the homepage. We've got a lot of work coming on the homepage. But then it slides into, okay, this isn't just a platform that's just for NFTs. We also cater for small business, medium business, and then later large business as well. And that's kind of where we're going with it in a brick by brick, step by step way, moving forward. So yeah, just wanted to point that out, that all the stuff that we build, when we add it onto Fusion, any project could utilize this. So another cryptocurrency project may want to scan a physical item and turn it into an RWA representing of their project. Once they've scanned the 3D file and converted it into either FBX or GPL, then they can have it as an RWA and sell it in their own asset. So it's not just us running around doing it. It's actually open to everyone, which I see being very, very important going into the future. Okay, going into Q4. So Q4, there was a few areas we wanted to squeeze in. The biggest one was the all currency minting, which hasn't been done on the XRP ledger in the way that we've got it. So what do I mean by that? We actually allow the user to select the asset they want to allow their NFTs to be minted in. And it's any asset, as long as you have the trust line in the wallet, it can be selected. So we can create a collection as in DPMF, we can create a collection of NFTs and mint them in anyone's asset on the XRP ledger. But it's not tied to just us. It's actually open to all the public. And that's one of the biggest upgrades that we needed. We probably needed that in 2022 when we was first starting out building this stuff, but we didn't have enough experience, excuse me, coding on the ledger to understand it, because a lot of stuff we do come across it does get complex and there isn't a rule book behind it. I speak to Wheats from Zaman Wallet as an example, and I say, look, do you know anything? Mainly about XLS20, I'll ask him a question and he'll say, we don't know how to do that. He'll openly say, look, we just don't know how to do that. I'll say it's fine. So some stuff we do, there isn't a guidebook. We're not copying open source code. We're actually writing a lot of code ourselves to break it, test it, and then launch it to the public. And all currency minting was one of them, which has been successful and used for the Megabits campaign. So we was able to throw out all kinds of characters in quite short succession, if I'm honest with you. I know on the ledger, generally most exchanges, you'd have to self-mint and then sell. A bit of a problem on the XRPL when it comes to NFTs. It's not very attractive. But we've built a system and a protocol in place in Fusion now where you can offer all your collection to be minted to the public in the click of one button in any asset. And it really is any asset. And you pick the amount as well. We recently broke the record by minting NFTs in RLUSD. That was about a week ago. It was just before Christmas. And then a year before that, we had the first platform that ever traded RLUSD. That was on the XRP ledger and Ethereum, which is actually the first platform. And it's evident on chain as well, because it was one of our own NFTs. So we've got that record on chain.
Well, not only the RLUSD, you've also minted with XDX. You've also minted with XSquad. You've also minted with OVO.
That's right, yeah. So that they would all be the first of their kind, yeah.
And we got two other projects in the shoot right now that we're creating, designing some megabits for them, and we're going to be minting in their coins too.
Yes, correct, yeah. And there's no other chain that has that use case that what we've got. There's no other chain. I'll say again, there's not one chain that allows all the currencies that are on the network to mint NFTs, then trade, buy, sell, offer. And then we have a decentralized validation feature, which the assets run on as well. So that where we are now with Fusion specifically, we are at a point where it's like, this is the hardest stuff is all done. The hardest one was the all currency minting. But all the hard stuff, the really complex stuff, we've just hit a line and it's like, yeah, that's where we are. That's it done. Now we can go on to the really fun stuff, which is incredibly exciting. But I tell you what, one hell of a challenge to get here. Incredibly challenging. There have been many nights where, because we have developers all over the world. We don't just have them in the UK. We have them in Europe. We have them in the US. We have some in India. We've got some in Eastern Europe. So the time zones of when we're communicating, it's almost 24/7. It's a 24-hour cycle, and depending on what project we're doing or what development's on and how we're going to integrate it and work together, it's just constantly flowing. And it's been very, very difficult to do in a very bad climate as well with cryptocurrency, because it's not the network itself, and I'm sure everyone here would agree, is a very quiet network at the moment. It's not flourishing like it would have been years ago, but that will come back. And when that comes back, we're already in position where we've been able to test, break, readjust, configure, test again, put online. We've already got so much online that when it does come, because when it comes, we would never go back to this kind of phase ever again, because we just have too much online that people wouldn't visit it regularly. People would visit regularly, sorry. This would be the quietest you'll ever see it. And I think that's for all the other chains as well. I think there's a big turn coming, really, really big turn. and it's going to be companies and projects with assets on networks which are doing unique things, which are then going to bring in lots more people, clients, customers, whichever you want to call it. There'll be a rally, and it will come down to stuff like game finance coming in. It will come down to enhanced use case of NFTs. It will come down to all kinds of new yield mechanisms, and that will be the wave that comes next. Go on, Free. Sorry, mate.
Oh, no. I was the one that was jumping in, so I apologize for that. No, I was just recently read somewhere that the current XRPL volume right now has gone back to even below the amount of volume that where before First Ledger started. So in essence, when First Ledger started up, it kickstarted a whole bunch of volume, and a lot of people from Solana and some Binance people came over to the XRPL to try and take over, trying to get in on those gains and those sales. In essence, drain liquidity from the XRPL. And now it has gone back down, even though the First Ledger is still functioning. It has gone back to pre-First Ledger volume levels. And so I just find that very interesting that you just have these like locusts or there's like leeches, that come in, they drain as much as they can, and they move on to the next source.
Yeah, it's going to come down to. So I know you guys know me for a long time. With cryptocurrency, with digital assets, it's always going to come down to utility. Can I use that asset in some way? We've built programs, protocols, and features for any asset. And that's literally what we have is a massive foundation. So what happens with Fusion in 2026 is not traditional on normal NFT platforms. What you're going to see coming is completely different to what you've seen before, and it does involve digital assets and the XRP ledger. But there has to be a reason. Why would the normal person get involved in this ecosystem? And this is where stuff like the RWAs come in, because we will find businesses that will take it on board. Mark my words. I've got a guy who has does a bit of a brewery, does his own brand of alcohol as an ale. He will do it. He will tokenize his ale. He'll tokenize it so it's got authenticity. He will do that, and it's grabbing them small businesses like that bit at a time. It's going to gather interest, especially when they start saying, "We're selling stock or we're selling products doing this, but if you're interested in buying it in cryptocurrency, you can do it here." And then that people are going to be like, okay, and that's one of the reasons it's going to start. It's a very small reason, but it's going to be a reason. The big one that's going to be a driving factor for people to come onto the ledger is going to be gaming. Shit bust, hands down, it's going to be gaming, and it's going to be consistent, fun to play, incentivized gaming. That's the only reason. It's not the only reason. That's a load of rubbish. It's the primary reason of using these assets, using networks, is going to be GameFi. And I think we spoke about it a bit last week about how that would work. With them coming on, that's going to be a drive. And there's a whole generation. I mean, we're quite middle-aged men. Well, not me. I'm very young, very, very young compared to Wes and Free. I'm waiting for a comeback. Maybe some of the audience, I don't know. But
yeah, we have to take a package of diapers every time we go out with you.
Yeah. But there will be a generation coming. There is a generation coming which is below us, and that generation has not ever known the internet not to exist. Us here, I think nearly all of us here on the panel, we've all lived a period in life where the internet didn't exist. Some where mobile phones didn't exist. But there's a generation below us who only know about being online. A lot of gaming. And when you combine digital assets and incentivize it with gaming, then there's an entire genre, an entire community out there that when that starts, there'll be a drive. And I think that will be the big wave that will come in, because cryptocurrency has more use case than fiat currency, like a lot. And that don't get broadcast on the media. What needs to happen is that we need to launch stuff and show them that this asset class, this technology, is the way forward. RWAs is one, if you want to go institutional, business, etc. And then another side we're going is gaming. That's the AVA program and Megabits. And that's why Fusion is really, really important for us at DPMF. That's why it's now down as Project XD1. It wasn't actually meant to be the first platform we were meant to launch. We switched it a few years ago. It wasn't meant to be first. It was meant to be sort of the self-custody wallet kind of side of things. But we switched it because looking ahead, because NFTs are marketed wrong. They are, the perception of NFTs is looked at as only, pictures, but they are more than that. And by us having a footing with Fusion, having the tech in place, it actually supports our other projects, mainly GameFi. If I'm honest with you, mainly on the GameFi side, but Fusion also will act as an area we can API for our self-custody wallet in the future as well. So I'll give you an example of what I mean by that. At the moment, Fusion doesn't, and this is on purpose, Fusion doesn't have token logos on there. You go on Fusion, you'll just see there's an NFT for sale in XDX, our native asset, or XIO, the governance asset of Fusion, or OVO, or 666, or this or that, whatever asset it is, you'll just see the ticker. The reason being is because the logo of a token isn't actually on chain. So it's not, the image of a token isn't actually on chain. And this makes it a little bit difficult to put a token image on, because you have to go through social media to find that. We've got a program coming this year, start of next year, called Trust Set Validation, which involves validators on Fusion to add token logos to projects of any token on the XRP ledger. So it won't be centralized where Fusion applies token logos. It will be where validators apply token logos. So everyone who's involved in Fusion with the XIO asset will have some governance power or responsibility. They will be able to apply token logos, and then it can be current in time. So if a project decides to change their logo, validators who support that asset will pick up on that and they can just change it. Easy. They haven't got to go through emails, haven't got to contact anyone at Fusion or DPMF to do it. It's all done by the people who are on the platform. How does that relate to having a self-custody wallet? That means later on, when we launch our own self-custody wallet, when we want to apply, when assets are applied in that wallet, we don't have to go through the complicated mess of trying to find every token on the XRPL, finding their ticker, finding new ones, finding old ones, and uploading them onto the wallet. We can just set up an API to Fusion, and then Fusion will openly share what is current with our live validators. And then we can make that API available to anyone else as well who wants to have current token images related to tickers. So you can see Fusion plays a very big role in a lot of what we're doing going forward. Very, very big role. Technologically, it plays a very, very big role, not just for the RWAs, but for GameFi, and then for APIs as well, with some stuff we're doing next year, which is why we put Fusion first, and which is why some of the others are not online yet. So, and for anyone who doesn't know, anything that gets planned to be developed, so we do plan time. We do say, right, we'll start on this date. This is the date we're aiming off. Generally, in my experience, what I've discovered is anything that you plan to do generally takes 3 times longer. Generally. So if something takes a month to build, generally it's finished in 3 months. I don't know why the laws of the universe work in this way, but it's a general broad general broad outline.
It's true.
Yeah. So when almost.
But
Wes, you have terrible reception, man.
Yeah, Wes,
you may want to move situation.
Yeah, you are just all echo, and you're all poo and no fart. Is what we'd say.
Or all fart and no poo.
Yeah, go on, Wes, try again.
Can you hear me, guys?
Yes, you came in better.
Because my missus wants to take, tells me that she's going to take 10 minutes to get ready and it takes about 3 hours. So, yeah, it is I think it's more than 3 times.
Joe, that's probably the most challenging thing involved in developing stuff. Like the stuff on Fusion, I could say the decentralized validation feature doesn't exist on any platform and any chain. We're the only ones that have done it. We're the only ones. I cannot find anyone else that's done it. And we've included all XRPL assets. To build that, I remember when people asked me, Dan, when is that going to be online? I'm like, I want to give you a date. Believe me, I do. And if I give you a date, it's probably going to go past that, and then I'm just going to upset a load of people. And that's one of the hardest things. I know we used to get a lot of questions about when's this online, when's this online. All currency minting, as an example. I think we put that out a year ago that was coming, and then we held it off until we had all the 3D stuff in place, and then we whacked it on a few weeks later because we was concurrently preparing it. With the stuff that you can see in the Jumbotron, with the 3D files being minted. So 2025 overall, decentralized validation came on just before the start of that year, but there's probably two major developments we've had, all of them inclusive of XRPL assets, but we do now have the capability to do RWAs on the XRP ledger. Today, there's no horsing around. We can do that now. And that's one of the big things of 2025. We are ready to deploy to small businesses in 2026. That's one of the big ones. And that's a reach into the real-time world to show digital assets, cryptocurrency, the XRPL as a network can integrate into traditional finance. So that's probably the biggest one. Another one of the biggest ones is 3D files. Which kind of leans on what I was just talking about RWAs, but 3D files are massive. Why? One of the developments, which I'd only touched on, the meta config, the metaverse configuration, which is metadata attached to the NFTs, that identifier means that we will be able to code pulling in 3D files into other people's games, into other people's 3D ecosystems. Now that is massive, and no one will know how big that is until we actually do it. But everything in place on the NFT side is there. That's why we partnered with Expector a year ago. Had a long chat with DS about pulling NFTs into Expector. He's very on side about it. So we've done everything on our side, and when Expector catch up on their development side, we'll then do the R&D and smash it in, and we'll be pulling 3D files into their ecosystem. And then all other 3D ecosystems, not just on the XRP ledger, but any kind of game, if they connect to the XRPL or allow the capability, these 3D files, especially if they're rigged as avatars, we will be able to pull them into other 3D ecosystems. And we massively utilize NFTs, especially the 3D NFTs. Even if you have just a JPEG image or PNG or whichever file type it is, the meta config you can still put down as object wall art, and that would mean in a 3D ecosystem be identified as a piece of artwork.
Well, and just imagine the application of it and the utilization of it, Dan. Maybe people have got photographs, of old people who've passed away. They could make that into a 3D object as well and reanimate that in a certain way where it could give a lot of use to people as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a string to the bow with NFTs, right? A string to the bow, but it broadens the use case because there's a bit of a basic use case looked at as NFTs. NFTs at the moment are looked at as only being tradable assets. They're not looked at as being used, and we're plugging in all these areas, adding all this data to prepare them to be used. And the Megabits program is an example of that. The Megabits program, the AVA program, very, very closely tied together with technology. So what you see us doing with the Megabits program, we can already do with the AVA program. We haven't released the new characters yet. We haven't released the old ones, should I say, to be switched out with the old NFTs. But everything you can see happening with the Megabits, as that goes on, in the background, you'd be like, well, I know they can do this with the AVA program because they are quite tied together. But the AVA program is more gaming. The Megabits is going to be a lot more on-chain technology. But both of them will run almost in tandem. And it's going to change the landscape of how this innovation, how not just this network. I think at the moment, I know that a lot of people who have used some of the functions and features we have in areas we are one of the most advanced, arguably. In fact, strongly arguably, we're one of the most advanced, but we're only a beta platform. Fusion is only a beta platform where it's been on. But the version 2, when it comes on, it's gonna be some serious business. We need to turn some heads in the real world and say, look, cryptocurrency has a place, it has a use case in digital ecosystem, and it has a use case in traditional finance, and we're going to start pulling that in and putting them together.
I don't think people really realize how the real world assets actually is a double whammy, or double bonus, shall we say, not a whammy, because whammy may be a negative connotation. And by that is, how currently you have the governments, especially the European governments, are tightening the noose around crypto owners, and trying to force, exchanges into KYC and, and you have a lot of crypto owners that don't want to do that still want to maintain their anonymity and stuff. So you have this, shall we say, piggy bank of crypto that is being held by a select few, because they're going to start to have issues with off ramping, not necessarily on ramping, but now off ramping. And so the person or the companies and the stores that realize this and are first to market with their RWAs are actually will allow for these, shall we say, crypto owners that don't necessarily want to do all this KYC stuff to actually use their crypto to buy those real world assets, and then off ramp, not necessarily into the fiat world, but more to the physical world, via those assets. So I think it's an untapped market right there that's going to be more and more, shall we say, enticing for crypto holders and for this, shall we say, the sellers and the shop owners.
You are absolutely correct. There is a problem we have in the blockchain ecosystem of a lot of chains where we have an off-ramping issue. So it's easy. And do you know what? Actually, it's been a bit difficult to even get on the network because of some regulations in a few countries, but getting off is even harder. There's two ways around that. There's one that people accept the currency as a form of payment everywhere, so you can pay for energy in an asset, you can pay for your shopping, you can pay your bills, pay for fuel. That's no way going to happen overnight at all. But if that did happen, then you wouldn't need to off ramp because you could just be on chain all the time. That's kind of how early this all is. So we're a massive step ahead. Like even as a community, as everyone here, you're hugely ahead with knowledge, more than anyone in the world. Like a millionth of a percent, you are a leading, sort of community member of knowledge, and you probably don't even realize it. But yeah, off ramping. If everything was accepting the currencies on the XRPL, for example, we wouldn't need to off ramp because you could go to the store to buy food. You could get paid in wages in the asset you choose, and that's the world I do believe we're going into. So that's kind of one way you can counter it. The other way is right now a lot of the world is going digital in terms of currencies. So a lot of stable coins are going to start appearing on all the networks, and then stable coins will provide the off ramps, and that's where the regulation comes in, which can be quite strict and quite tight. It's not going to be favoured for everyone. There's going to be a lot of people who haven't been paying tax. They're going to be caught out through it. So off ramping will come. But I don't know which way it's going to go. Is it going to be like in 20 years' time? A lot of currencies are going to be accepted for payments, or in 20 years' time, is it all these stable assets that are CBDCs or regulated stablecoins? They're going to be the off ramps, which I think is probably more likely the latter. if I'm honest with you.
Right, but that's the point right that I'm making right there. So if you're trying to skip regulations and stuff like that, and there is a possibility of, let's say, a product or a shop or something like that that does accept the any of the assets from the XRPL, shall we say? Let's just stick to the XRPL. And as long as that store reports, that the sale, shall we say, but if the buyer wants to use their XDX in the store that accepts it, online store that accepts it, I mean, they skip completely the off ramping, via the bank or via the stablecoin transaction or transfer or exchange, and just go use directly just direct XDX. And so they get an off ramp without all these hassles, shall we say. And they just get the product and to get the physical product.
That's kind of how it works now with NFTs. So we don't need to off ramp to own an NFT. It's just what's the next layer? Like going into gaming, playing games. No one's going to need to off ramp directly on the game. You could use the currencies to earn and use the currencies to buy stuff, and then you could sell on the decentralized exchange. And then use the exchanges as an off ramp. So when you look at it like that, with that perception, you can kind of see how small and how early it really all is. And we said it like 2-3 years ago. You don't know how early you are, and we'll probably say the same terminology again in another 3 years. Like you don't understand how early you are. One of the things I really like about the XRP ledger is it's the interoperability. So in the future with XD2, we have off ramps planned. Regulations are probably going to be in the way. It's quite difficult when when it comes down to custody and customer funds, which could relate to it, but off ramping can be quite difficult. But we have a plan in place later with XD2 to do that. Are we going to have it on in time, or a central bank digital currencies and other stable coins going to take the lead? We could probably have both in tandem, whichever way it goes. But by then, is it going to be needed? We could be going into a world then where it's all in house, where it's all on the network, and it's like, well, which network's going to take off? And if you look at all the networks in detail, the XRPL is one that is primed for a multi-currency future, but by governments, multi-currency networks are not favoured, which is probably why Ripple's been under an awful lawsuit for the past few years and not the other chains. Likely, I'd say. Sorry, was you going to say something then? I just paused for a minute.
Well, I was just thinking about off ramping again, different possibilities, and you have the companies like Binance that are offering, and I think it was at crypto.com that they offer their credit cards, so that they sell off your via your actual crypto holdings. But unfortunately, in that situation, because they are exchanges, you are required to do that KYC. So again, I don't know if it's even a possibility for an non-exchange, like a company, to offer a credit card to be able to use.
It would be. We could do it with very little regulation, but it would mean that the funds that are used to off ramp are owned by us. So regulation only kicks in. It is only big when you are in custody of client funds. So, for example, if Fusion was custodying NFTs, so if people were creating NFTs and it was actually owned on Fusion, we would have a bit of a regulation issue. Because it's on a peer-to-peer basis, where the person who creates the NFT straight away owns it, and the person who buys it, they straight away own it, and we're sort of a gateway. No regulation is required. How you do that with off-ramping is that you have to have a basket or a fund which relates to off-ramping, which is owned by, for example, DPMF, and it's not client funds. Now, a lot of stable assets that do off-ramps, they are custodying funds through investors generally, for all kinds of different ways, and that's where regulation is. But if there is a capability to do it where you're not custodying customer funds and still able to provide an off ramp, then regulation is very small. In fact, there's hardly any, if any. So, and what you're talking about there as well, bringing crypto into traditional finance, we're now taking away what's called anonymity to remain anonymous. One of the things I quite favoured about blockchain technology was one, you owning your funds, and two, you don't have to declare who you are. The problem is now when you off ramp, you do have to declare who you are. I think if we have it in a, if we're able to off ramp in our own way, where we're not custodying customer funds, we might be able to run what we want with anonymity, which is kind of my gold standard. But at the moment, we're being squeezed into a corner with this. And the problem is we are tying cryptocurrency innovation with traditional finance. And the reason we're doing that, and the reason there's so many supporters going down that way, is because they want everything they're invested in to go up, thinking that institutions and banks are going to come flurrying in and start buying loads of assets, and your investment's going to go through the roof. There's no banks coming in to buy any of the native assets because they've issued stable coins. Instead, they want to utilize their fiat currency with stable coins, so they're not going to be buying. Well, they probably will. They'll buy it with their own stable coin. They'll buy mainnet assets. But the reason for big institutions or banks, brokers to come in and buy assets is now by the by because they've just issued their own stable coins. So that's
Well, yeah, I mean, because they also
it.
want to control. They also want to control the amount of interest. Because I mean, the United States, passed the Clarity Act, which allowed secondary companies to actually issue a percentage gains or yields or whatever interest on that the actual stablecoin can't do it, but another company, a secondary company, can issue interest rates for that stablecoin. And so now what the banks, going back to the banks, obviously because they don't want to lose money themselves, they want to come back in and rewrite the Clarity Act, which has already been passed into law. And this is in the United States, already been passed into law, because now they're saying that no, they don't want even the secondary companies to be able to offer interest-bearing yield to crypto holders.
Yeah,
because that money is being taken away from the banks.
Yeah, it's purely because, I know we spoke about this before. The bank will only work with customers. So a bank needs customers. So people have to have a bank account and then be paid by wherever they work for, paid into that account. And then you would either pay a fee or you'd have a savings account. They would use your savings to reinvest, etc., etc. If this was to be successful, where secondary companies could allow interest rates with assets, etc., people aren't going to keep their money in the bank. They're going to put it on chain, which means these exchanges, which are in a way hybrid banks. I think that's one of the reasons why Binance was attacked so heavily as well, being the biggest one. Then people aren't leaving their money in the bank. They're now going to exchanges because they earn a bigger yield. They'll get a bit better interest rates because it's cryptocurrency. So the banks won't want that because the attraction for people to bank with them is now fading. And I actually believe it was one of the reasons why we had the banking crisis in 2021 start, where San Francisco lost 2 banks, which were blockchain related. And then there was a domino effect afterwards. And I strongly believe it was because of the massive bull run back then and the amount of people were just taking money out of the bank and just putting it into exchanges. And because of that, the banks were struggling. And that's evidence. It's evidential. If you look at the collapse of the banking system sort of recently, tied to the bull market in 2022 and 21, they completely align. And if that happens again, I don't think the banking system can survive.
But you know what? That's completely their fault because of the fractionalization of the fractionalized banking. If they had the actual amount of money or fiat money in the vault, they would never have suffered these problems. The fact that they lost that money because it went somewhere else, they lost the power of the fractionalization. And they just could not maintain themselves. So, I mean, in essence, they dug their own hole.
Yeah, that's right. The second a bank has to transfer to an exchange, or do a payment to exchange, the payment's in cash because it's not within the banking Nostro Vostro accounts. It's out. Cash is out, and that's why there was a cash shortage in some countries. So yeah, the technology itself. So there is in a way a tech war, a bit like the Cold War years ago, but there's a tech war going on now. But it's not broadcast in the media. And blockchain technology is a massive thorn in the side for banks. And if banks don't find a way, well, they have found a way actually. But if banks don't find a way to integrate into blockchain, and the solution is now them issuing their own stable assets. That's how they've done it, and that's what's happening. And everyone's supporting it. There's everyone's supporting. This stable coin's launching here. This one's launching there. We're going to have stable coins come to the ledger. We're going to have banks involved. Actually, what I see happening is a little bit of the opposite, where there's more. We've just allowed them to have control. And the control is you got to remember with banks, with customers, you're the client, you're the customer. They make money off you, and it will be the same mentality when they integrate in blockchain. They're not coming over to throw hundreds of thousands of dollars all over the place. They're coming in because that's where people are going, and they're like, how do we make money off these people? Well, we'll issue our own stable assets that they have to use for payments and off ramps, and then what can we do there? Oh, we'll add fees to that. So we'll add fees to that, and on top of that, on a public ledger, we can track their tax. So it's where a lot of people are on side with some of these global or national stable assets coming on board on chain. I can see it actually, and it's promoted in a positive way. It is all over the media. It's promoted in a positive way when it comes to stable coins. But stable coins are just pegged to fiat currency, and the whole reason we're in this bloody mess is because of fiat currency, the banks, and then the government as well. And they've just found a way to integrate it. And we're supporting it without knowing the true facts of actually we're probably going to shoot ourselves in the foot here. And then the whole idea of what blockchain technology was. So if you read the Bitcoin white paper, it actually talks about peer-to-peer network, no third party, no middleman. Well, with regulation, that's about to be integrated in. So the initial dream of what blockchain technology was or is now going to be taken away by law, and it's not going to benefit us. It's not. So I could see it being a bit of a problem. That's my perspective, though. I don't want to put that dampen a dark side on it. It could be, it could be great. It could be all hallelujah and fuzzy and cheering and good times. But at the moment, I from working with banks over the past 5 years, I would say that we are not. Look, we are the customer again, and that's what these stablecoins are going to do.
Right, and that's where like companies like DPMF who can provide an alternative in the crypto blockchain or crypto world to get in, as opposed to having to have to pay all these transaction fees and stuff like that, through through the banks.
So
stable coins.
I know I've spoke to you about it over the past 2 years, and a few of the others. I'd be very keen. When we had Stably on the XRPL, which were a stable coin, and they folded, and I worked with them for a while, and built some stuff their asset ran on. When they kind of folded, I kind of lost faith in stable coins, and I was like, am I going to have to start a stable coin? The problem is when you do a stable asset, you have to peg it to one of the national assets anyway. So it's like, well, what's the point? And I'm very keen of there's a method I have theoretically to do a new form of stable asset where it's not actually pegged to one national fiat currency. And I would like to launch it, and I'd like to launch it where it is on a we're not custodying client funds, if you like, and stuff. We can get around regulation that way and try and make a stable coin that's better than the ones you see today, and then turn that into forms of payment. And in fact, with some of the ideas I have, it may be something to do in the future with XDX, where we have each one as $1, which sounds incredibly crazy right now. But there's about 2-3 different ways to actually do it. By taking off XDX on the market to do it. But I'm pretty strong on having some sort of stable asset which isn't tied to a country. in a new way. Because I am actually against the banking system. I'm not an advocate for banking, actually. For traditional banking, I'm very against it. And for some of the stuff we do with XD2, I think we're going to need to do a stable asset, something in the future. And I've spoken to you about it before, and there's a bit in and out of it. But I think it's something we probably will do in the future. If not, it would be the XDX asset, which we would turn into a stable asset, which could be done as well. So something to look at for the future. But it'd be a lot more than now. So,
So future, like 3 weeks, right? So it means 3
yeah,
weeks. That means 9 weeks.
yeah. In fact, 20 days. We're going to speed it up.
20 days.
Yeah.
So 60 days.
Yeah. Well, it was going to be a week, but I've added 2. You know how it is in the development world. Yeah.
What are you doing, man? Get to work then.
Yeah. It's just, with everything we're discussing, that kind of stuff does worry me. I never wanted Bitcoin to actually be an ETF. I was probably one of the very, very, very few people who was like, I don't think this technology should be linked in with this capability. And when the XRP currency was put forward for it by Ripple, I was really against that. I was probably the only person in the community who was like, I do not want this to happen. And that's because of it sounds good in short term, but in the long term, it just ties us in traditionally, and we kind of go back into our old roots again with currencies. And my dream with this innovation is to have what I see coming is a multi-currency world, and I'm going to support that as we go forward with everything we do, and that's echoed from what we've already built so far. But yeah, going forward, I'm going to push for a multi-currency world where we're not tailored to have to use just one stable coin for a form of payment. I'm going to push it where we're allowed to use all. And what that means is we don't just empower individuals, but we empower any businesses that are involved. We empower individual institutions in their own way, and we're not tied into one national currency, which inflation it goes at all different levels in different countries, and people suffer from inflation. If anyone goes into the roots of that, that's one of the reasons why we're in a financial crisis as well. So as we go forward, one of the main visions will always be that we will support a multi-currency world going forward, and whether that's adopting commercial stores for payments, where we build in where people are allowed to pay in whatever currency they like, and that's where we're going. And then we'll probably have some regulation battles in the future. For those who don't know, we've actually had a few legal battles over the years already, and we don't. In fact, some of them contractually, I can't actually say what they're about, but we have had legal battles. Some of them cost me a lot of money over some of the stuff we're doing, and we're only very small. Make no mistake, we're not large, but we are doing stuff which is slowly getting attention. And
As I say, raising eyebrows.
Is that we do get some attention. I have a few people on LinkedIn. I tell you what, I'm more popular on LinkedIn than I am on X. But I get a lot of I have a lot of conversations with people who talk to me on LinkedIn, and a lot of them are from the financial sector in London, usually asking questions. I don't really give them the answers because I don't know what their angle is sometimes or what they're coming at me for. But yeah, we have been we have had a couple of lawsuits over the 4 years, sort of been on the XRP ledger, and contractually that we haven't lost one, but contractually I'm also not allowed to say what they are either or who it was with. We can't say anything publicly. That's what I've just said is as much as I can say, and that's it. So there is some attention point in our way, and as we go forward, I can see that increasing, and that's why the Genesis side of XD2 actually came about a few years ago with the Gen notes. That sparked me to do that because of some stuff we're doing in the future. And I think in, say, another 5 years' time, I probably would have had another 2, 3, I imagine, legal battles, because some of the stuff we're doing is very supportive of other issued assets, and we're very, very supportive of this innovation, and we're not directly supportive of stable coins, although they will still be used. We're not directly supportive of that, and I'm sure if I apply an off ramp, um, you know, that's internal to us, where we don't need regulation for it, someone will come at me somewhere, because we will get more attention. Something to think about in the future anyway. Can't wait. Very excited.
We all are.
Yeah, it's just the way it goes. But no, going off on a bit of a tangent there about where we're going in the future. Um, I don't know that there's probably going to be some listeners who, listen to the recording now, who probably haven't heard much of what we do, but the bottom line is to kind of finish it off. We are massively advocates of this technology. I've got 2 developers from Ethereum, Solidity developers, who are with us. They are advocates of this technology, make no mistake, and follow the same mindset as me. So it's very, very good. So we have a very strong development team. We have a strong team at DPMF Labs as well. We have some fantastic people there. Live Free on the panel up here. Rayleen does the video editing for YouTube and does a fantastic job on that. And we're steadily growing. People always asking to come on board, and us exploring new ways of combining blockchain with traditional finance. DPMF Labs has been very good for that. So yeah, going forward, I am excited for what we do in the future. We've had a tough year, and the year before was actually tougher. But 2026, concurrently to us looking for businesses to do RWAs, we have some fantastic developments coming with Fusion, some that haven't been seen before on the traditional platform. So I'm incredibly excited to get them on, which will massively increase the amount of users that come on board. One, because they are functions and features which haven't been seen before, but 2, they're also financially incentivizing. So you'll be able to make money from these features, and they don't involve NFTs. So although the platform is NFT orientated at the moment, there is more features coming which don't just tailor to NFTs, which do tailor to cryptocurrency, yield earning, and using some of the protocols in the XRP ledger to users' benefit. In lots of different ways, and one of them trust set validation, which is next. So we've got a very, very exciting year for 2026. On top of that, the AVA program, which is being done in China, and we've got the Megabits program, which is with mainly DPMF Labs, and some game designers with the MetaMart as well. So 2 sort of game variants, but different technologies. And then Wes, who was here earlier, is writing the story with the AVA program with me as well. Which I was actually meant to have a meeting about it yesterday. Now I've just remembered. But no, we've got a very exciting year coming. You're about to see, with DPMF specifically with us, you're going to see us start utilizing NFTs in a way not seen before. And you're going to see us add use case with function and features on Fusion with digital assets, which hasn't been seen before on any network. And we're doing that because we're advocates of the technology. Shit bus, that's what it is. We don't look at the rest of the network as any kind of competition at all. There's no one that's ever been blacklisted to have their assets used on Fusion. We've never ever done that, and there's probably some people we could argue we should, but to have that mentality would not be a good mentality in this ecosystem. We're very open. We allow anonymity, and we like transparency and integrity. So we kind of carry them traits with everything we do going forward. So we support all assets on the ledger, and we actually support people on the ledger where we can as well. So yeah, very exciting year going to 2026. Got some very interesting developments I cannot wait to have online, and I'm looking forward to them coming online as well. And yeah, I think we're going to start turning some heads in the way blockchain technology is perceived, and that's a good thing. And with validators that we have on Fusion as well, they will be able to do more features and functions through the year. So they'll have use cases people. Almost you could say we're utilizing their wallet address in a way. And concurrently to that, with the RWA stuff, we'll be contacting people and trying to bring some of the stuff we do into the real world, and bringing people on the ledger with us. The RWA stuff you see above, I know Rayleen's a part of the 666 project. The 666 asset can be involved in that in buying and selling. We don't take that away. They can apply offers for RWAs. In fact, the issuer could sell RWAs in their currency. And that's the kind of future I really see us going forward. And I think if we're not careful, especially with the bigger players, much bigger than us, like Ripple and brokers and banks, if we're not careful, this technology is going to fall into a too traditional way of doing business, and we're not going to fall into that trap. We're going to align it in a way which I believe blockchain technology should be built out, and that is basically empowering people is the bottom line, and that's where we're going with it. So that's my little summary on everything, just to finish it off. I have nothing else to say unless any of the panel have any questions, or anyone in the audience as well. Open to any questions.
Dan, I just wanted to say that I'm extremely grateful for you and your team, and that you guys are doing a spectacular job, and that we are looking forward to what you guys are going to do in 2026. And then also, I wanted to ask, what is your predictions aside from RWAs and XTX? What is your predictions for XRP and other technologies?
Do you mean as in network developments coming?
Yes, I do.
So the XRPL, as it stands now, is probably the most powerful layer 1 out of all networks. As I'm sure most are aware, layer 2 doesn't exist, and that's actually okay for now. I think we're going to see some amendments come where we can custom add smart contracts which get verified by validators to come on. I also think there may be, and this is a grey area, 50-50 on this. I think what's going to happen is there may be something come on where validators start earning fees. I know there's been some discussions about it, and I read through them a few weeks ago, and it kind of makes sense. And I know David Schwartz was quite heavy on making sure that didn't happen, but he's actually leaving. I think it's next month or February, something like that. So there may be an interest. So that may be something that comes on the ledger. I actually believe that is actually needed, because validators don't have an incentive to run the network. And I think there would be a massive boost in network nodes and validators coming on with that capability, massive improvement of latency. And I think we'll see some upgrades of the network come on. Now I'm really speculating on that bit, but the transactions per second, the TPS, is currently not capable for a global scale. So for anyone who didn't know that, so if the XRPL was to take over the banking system, it wouldn't be able to handle it. Right? That's a fact, which most don't know. But I do believe we might see something where that improves somehow, and I think might see some new form of validators. Now hold me to that, because I think that may be something we'll see in the future. In relation to the XRP currency as a mainnet currency, I think we're in a bear market. I said it a few months ago when I actually on the show, I didn't know XRP was at $3.60, which was actually one of my targets. Now, the price of XRP does not matter. If I'm completely honest with you, the price of XRP doesn't matter if it's a penny, $1, $10, the network will still run. As long as there's a few validators on there, it will still run. So the price of it has no effect or no direct correlation with the network. I think we're going to go into a bear market for a while, and it kind of relates to what Live3 was saying earlier, where he said the user base has gone down, which is that's fine. It doesn't affect what we do. It's not going to affect the XRPL network. And I think we're going to see a phase now on the XRPL network where a few people who've been developing over the years are going to start activating a few things. We might see a few more betas come on. There might be a few more game finance areas come on. And then in a couple of years, I think we'll then see a complete turn. And that will be where the network right now is probably going to be the quietest it's ever been. And then after that, I think we're going to take off. And the reasons for that will come down with regulation as well, mainly while Trump is in, because he's obviously a leader in that. But then with the stable coins coming on as well. So there'll be a flurry. I would say most about 2 years. But the turning point for that will be between now and then. With XRPL assets, like with our native asset XDX, we was talking about trading earlier. I actually love analytics, so on occasions I do look at our own currencies, and it'd be very, very unfair for me to give price predictions on our own native asset. But what I can say across the board, across nearly all XRPL assets, that there has been if you look at the structure of XRPL assets, you will see that there are bottom formations forming. And that would relate to the turn of the XRP currency coming down, and then it's the time for XRPL assets to come up. And some of them assets, as they take off, they probably won't come back down to these levels because there's use cases for them which will become more attractive, especially over the next year, I'd say. So overall, mainnet currencies to drop, maybe for just about 2 years, maybe a bit less. Altcoins on them networks to start springing off with attraction. And then as they take off and start topping, then you'll see the mainnet currencies like Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP turn. But there is to me, there is what's the word I'm looking for? Something which is odd. Help me out here, Rayleen. What's the word I'm looking for? A anomaly. There's an anomaly with Bitcoin in my eyes. So this is how I would trade it. I think Bitcoin might be going into a longer bear market. And for years, we've spoken about the flipping of Bitcoin. It's been a conversation for about a decade. And that may be the time. It may be the time it comes. I don't know very many people who are in Bitcoin unless they were in Bitcoin really early on. And I was on a conversation with a guy from Germany and a guy from Dubai not long ago who actually said to me, this was about 3 weeks ago, maybe a bit longer. They actually said to me, they're Bitcoin investors. They're cycling out of Bitcoin. They're looking for digital assets. They're not looking for mainnet currencies like XRP, Ethereum, Cardano. They're looking for small cap assets on networks that are building use case because they want to help promote the innovation as well. And the only people who are doing that are people who build assets on networks, assets and use cases on networks. It's only because of them networks will do well. And the conversation I had with them was they were going to rotate into projects and companies like that. That's what they're looking for. They're headhunters. It's one of the reasons why I had a conversation. So that's where I think we're going with the future. With relation directly just to our native asset XDX, I know we are one of the. There's only a few. We take in XDX daily on Fusion. So if people create NFTs, if they validate us, XDX comes in on Fusion generally daily, on a daily basis, and that's all open source on the ledger. And you'll see that XDX is always coming in. So we are one of the only, or have one of the only projects where our native asset is taken in daily. As we turn on more features and functions through this year, XDX is going to be a currency of payment for some of them. So then that will only increase. And in line with that, that will actually come in with our yield earning mechanism where we recycle it and distribute more rewards. So with XDX, I wouldn't give a price prediction because it'd be very unfair because we issued the asset. But what I can say is there will be more mechanisms in place coming where more XDX will be taken off the market and more will be rewarded for people who own it via the yield earning mechanism we already have online. Yem Infinity, which is online. And Yem Parts 1 and 2 coming on as well. I think as a native asset, I think we'll do quite well over the next couple of years. For what we deliver, I think XDX is, as a total market cap, I think we're under 1 million. Years ago, we was up at 50 million and we didn't have anything online then. With some of the stuff we're doing, I would say we do very well. I don't want to give any numbers. I'll just say I'm very positive on it because I know what we're going to be delivering. Does that kind of answer your question, Rayleen? I think I covered it all there.
Yeah, those are very great predictions, and I'm excited to hold you to it. But yeah, like you said earlier, that a project needs to have a utility case, or else it's just a normal project, and it might lead to the project dying at the end of the day. And especially with Fusion and the technology that you guys released recently, allowed us that opportunity to do that with our NFTs. And luckily, over the course of a few weeks, we wanted to release our NFTs, but we just knew that we had to wait for the perfect moment, and you guys just came out of nowhere with the NFTs technology, and it just makes things now so much easier now. So we have now clear direction on where to take the project and also provide utility to the community members. So it's awesome.
That's good. Joe, it's really refreshing to hear that as well. You know, I don't have the time personally to go around and talk to like every project leader. In fact, my timeline is very busy on a day-to-day basis. It's usually like a 20-hour day. But it's really refreshing to hear that, Rayleen, because you know, we built it to support people. So for those that don't know, we don't have a trading fee on Fusion. So Rayleen could use the 666 asset on Fusion to mint, buy, sell, offer with their native asset. We take no fee. So they get complete support of using that ecosystem, where if they use their own native asset, they take 100% of what it is. And that's included in royalties as well. We don't take any royalties of anyone. So whenever a project uses Fusion, they 100% get any assets that are traded in for them, as if they sell anything. And that was kind of a supportive arm that I kind of wanted from a few years ago, because I know there are not many, there are people who start projects who are not maybe development savvy or technically savvy, who just need a little bit of support to use their asset while they configure and build what it is they want to build. So to have Fusion, and it's one of the reasons why we merged it and called it Fusion. So we act as a supportive arm, you know, so Rayleen there can use her asset, you know, earning 100% of what the sales are and 100% of what the royalties are, with us just being there as a supportive arm. We have areas on Fusion we make revenue, right? Make no mistake, we do it. I remember some guy said to me a few months ago, he's like, how does Fusion make money if you don't have any trading fees? Well, actually, if you go into Fusion, you actually start using bits, you'll see there are areas that they have to have areas of payments, and then payments do come to us, and that would be forms of revenue. And on top of that, we have our own programs anyway. And if the XLS20 protocol from years ago, there was a part taken out of it which allowed automation of trust lines. If that was not taken out, we could charge a fee for other currencies. But because it was taken out, we had to build, and I still wanted to build an all currency NFT exchange, then it would be we have to do a 0% trading fee. Now, on a business perspective, that's not ideal, but it also means that we couldn't do it. And I was like, well, what's more important here? Because with all the stuff we're doing, I want to make sure that we still have that supporting arm. It's there if necessary. So any project on the XRPL can use their assets on Fusion. Any project. And in fact, any community member can use Fusion and use a project that they're invested in, or maybe they want to get involved with. As long as they have the trust line in their wallet, they can apply to have their asset used as well. So it just means we have that supportive arm. And we don't see a lot of that in the blockchain world. We don't see a lot of that. It's not so much interoperability, but that kind of that supportive arm where it's like, you know, we're there if you need us, and if you don't need us, that's fine. But it's there if you need us. So it's very, very refreshing to hear that, Rayleen. Actually, it's really good to hear. It makes you feel very positive. Because over time, especially as Fusion grows, because Fusion's got arms and legs coming all over the place, as it gets more and more attractive, that will become more known. And I could see a lot of projects get involved. I know there's we see on the back end testing. I think at most we've had 60 this year. I think it was 60 assets or 70 assets used on the XRP ledger, but nothing was put on social media. And I think it was down to testing. And that wasn't people contacting us in any way. That's just them testing to buy and sell NFTs, yeah, which is fine. So we're there for that. But a lot of the stuff we have coming is a business model as well on top of that. But yeah, really, really great to hear. And I look forward to seeing the 666 NFT collection come out. I know you've been working hard on it, and I know you'll release it and execute when you've got a plan. So I look forward to seeing that as well.
Thank you so much. And I also just want to say that although I'm grateful for DPM and the crew, I just wanted to say thank you so much for everyone subscribing to our YouTube channel. Thank you to everyone for supporting DPM Live and showing up on Sundays. I know it's not always easy to do that and to tune in this for long hours to listen to us talk about technology and crypto, etc. But I just wanted to say thank you to you guys for showing up. We appreciate it dearly.
Absolutely. The YouTube channel, Rayleigh's done a really good job on it, acts as an additional arm advertising on what we do. And our metrics have only gone up since Rayleigh's been on board with it. So what I'll do is, as I'm talking on here, I'm just going to see if I can find it. I'll put it in the Jumbotron, and it'd be really appreciative if you could subscribe to it, because the more people that subscribe, the better the reach we have. Yeah, and it's not just to what we do, but to the XRPL as well, because we do actually interview other projects. So it's incredibly helpful. I'm waffling now because I'm trying to find the link, the post that we had out recently on it.
It's in the comment section. You can find it. I tried to put it on, but I don't have that setting because we got it up.
You don't have the power setting.
Yeah, but I think it's because of the new update. I think Android users got an update from X, so everything looks different now. So yeah.
Okay, let me see if I can. I think Palace put one out recently, didn't he? I'm trying to find it on the company handle. 1 second. Is there anything you want to add, Literally, while I'm just... Here we go, got it.
No, I got nothing to add. Quite frankly, I think it was pretty good review. You have some pronostics for the future. That's was very nice. I think we can pretty much, unless anybody has any questions, we can start closing up the show.
Yeah, brilliant. I'd like to also thank everyone that's come on as well. Thanks for coming on to listen. It can be quite a lonely place sometimes, especially for me. I don't have the time to talk to everyone in the community. I don't have the time to talk to other projects. Usually dealing with stress on this side. So it's much appreciated it's appreciated that you come listen to what I have to say. Whether it's live now or on the recording, it's massively appreciated. And it's nice to share what we're doing, because sometimes we're doing so much, it's always hard to keep track. And that we probably have one of the largest teams in the XRPL. No, make no mistake, we probably do have over most projects. But that's just because we have big plans, and our big plans are not to sort of promote all over social media that we're the best. Our plans are actually to develop stuff that's really, really useful in this technology, and that does take time. So yeah, I apologise, I can't ever talk to anyone, or have the time to speak to everyone. I wish I did.
But what, they can always come by and visit us at at the Telegram chat and ask any questions. Everybody's very willing to help.
I try and answer any question that gets thrown in Telegram. Whenever I go on, I always find it, and I'll try and answer as best I can in any way. I don't allow anyone to ask a question and just be ignored. That's not how we do things. So if anyone ever has any questions, feel free to jump on Telegram, ask a question. So I know some people have busy lives. You may be at work all week. A week later, you have no idea what's going on, or you want to know where something sits. Always feel free to ask, and I'll always answer as best I can. It always tries to be me, but if it isn't me, be one of the team as well. They'll speak on my behalf if I'm not there. So everyone's always welcome to ask questions. Okay, Live Free, go on. You're good to wrap it up, bud.
hold on. I was gonna do something else here.
Is it that woman with the sexy voice coming
Oh, she's coming. She is coming.
on again? Okay.
I was just trying to change. Here it is. Sorry guys. This thing's changed up. All right. We have reached the poetry segment of our show, where one of our members, NSCV, has written poetic lyrics dedicated to DPMF. Here we go.
Cold winds have blown, brown leaves have flown, green trees have grown, new seeds are sown, advancement is shown, bits of creation spawn, lines of innovation drawn, a realm of creation born to love complexity's thorn, a show of DPMF's dawn, crafting creation's beauty, embracing innovation's bloody, walking paths of unseen eternity, seeing not tomorrow's ephemerality, dancing within ways of brevity, creating systems of simplicity, singing melodies of serenity, flowing rivers of all currency, loving hearts of art greatly, mastering chains that lead freely. A beautiful flow to end the year. DPMF's creations are forever clear. Innovation we still hold dear. Fusion's tune will reach advancement's ear. Melodies of success have never been unclear. Green lights will be clear, do not fear. Symphonies of success we hear. XDX's candles will fly and see horizons tear. The scenery of success is close and near. In the infinite sea of creation we will swim forever. DPMF's Year by NSCV.
Beautiful words by NSCV. This show was sponsored by FusionXIO.com, a premier permissionless NFT platform where you can mint and sell your NFTs in any of the over 61,489 issued coins on the XRPL. FusionXIO now has the capabilities to see and manipulate the 3D dynamic NFTs and is now offering permissionless minting of your awesome 3D dynamic NFTs with the all-new all-currency minting on the XRPL. Next on the development plate is viewing your 3D NFTs, the GLB and the FBX files in augmented reality. Soon you will have the ability to get the future YEM Part 1 and 2 rewards. The current YEM Infinity reward has not gone out yet, so it should be in your wallets later today. Remember, to be able to unlock the yield earning mechanism, you will need to own at least one XIO, and the yield earning mechanism, let me restart that. Remember, to be able to unlock the yield earning mechanism, you will need to own at least one XIO, and the amount of YEM Infinity reward depends on the amount of XDX you own. Currently, there are 284 holders that have at least one XIO and are eligible to receive all the YEMs.
Have a very happy new year, DPMF Live crew. May all your crypto wishes ring true. May the people see how much of a powerhouse DPMF is. And may we finally see a day where peace flows through the whole world and evil is vanished from existence. Thank you for joining us today and learning about this hot project, DPMF. Oh my, I get so excited thinking about it. If you have any questions, please reach out to us on X or our Telegram chat. Please follow all the speakers here. Please don't take anything we say as financial advice. Do your own research. With that said, we bid you farewell and hope you join us again next week for another deep dive into the blockchain world. This show is recorded, so if you missed a part of it, you can go back and listen to the show. Please share and have a beautiful day. Ciao, all you beautiful people.
Alrighty. Have a happy new year, guys, and blessings for the year to come. Everybody take care.